There were 23 days left before the entrance exams to the postgraduate studies, when my dad suddenly called me and asked, since the university I entered is not far away, do I want to go back home and study there? The fact is that because of one project, I stayed in the university, both in the winter and in the summer holidays, and as a result I was not at home for more than a year. My parents must have missed me a lot, and in any case I needed to return to the exam, so I decided to say goodbye and immediately return home to prepare. Before that, my parents told me that they bought a small cottage in a new area, made repairs there and moved. Having arrived, I found that the new house is located in some desolate and deserted place on the outskirts. Our city is divided by a river into two banks, the south and the north. The north bank is an urban development, where the vast majority of the population lives. The south bank used to be an unpopulated mountainous area. Recently the authorities leveled part of the mountain to build a new urban area, but it has not yet been fully mastered. So far, only a few factories and logistics centers have been built. Their warehouses are on the south bank. There was no entertainment here. I dragged my parents to inspect our new house. This is a 3-story cottage with a basement. It has a courtyard but not very large, and the house itself is not very spacious. The first floor is a garage. My parents have a car for each, and I also have a car when I get a license, so there are 3 cars in the garage, and there is also a pantry filled with all sorts of junk. On the second floor is the main bedroom. My bedroom is a living room and 2 cabinets. The third floor is a large living room, and the kitchen. After a quick inspection of the layout, Dad secretly asked me if I wanted to see the basement. I immediately agreed and followed him. I followed Dad to the first floor, to the pantry. When he opened the door, I saw a bunch of old household appliances from the previous house and some boards. The closet is nothing special. I looked around in doubt. We seem to be going to the basement. Dad whispered mysteriously, "This is the entrance to the basement, our basement." Its construction cost a fortune. Inside we store expensive wines and some secret documents. Having said that, Dad opened the closet. I looked inside and saw that clothes from many years ago were hanging there. Dad came up to the closet, pushed the clothes aside and pressed some point inside. A small gap suddenly appeared behind the closet. There was a secret door. Dad came in first, turned on the light, and I hurriedly followed him. Entering, I found that this was a small room with only one door. Wow, the door is inside the other door. "Daughter, go enter the password. This is your birthday." "Yes, sir," I said excitedly and approached the door. I entered the password and turned the handle, but the door did not open. I turned around and saw that Dad had already turned around to leave. Suddenly, I realized something amazing. It was a trap. Coming out of the closet, I saw that Dad was hiding behind a pile of old equipment. With wide open eyes, I saw a passage appear on the floor and thought, this is not just to protect against thieves, is it? I went down the stairs and at the end there was a huge iron door that looked very thick and heavy. I knocked on the hanging castle on the iron door, and by a deafening sound I realized how thick it was. My dad got the key to open the castle, and we had to push the door together to open it. I became more and more suspicious and anxious. This was definitely not to protect against thieves. Then for what? Come in first, look around. "I'll go upstairs, call your mom. We need to talk to you," said my dad, looking at me with a serious expression on my face. While I was standing by the iron door, he stroked me on the head and then turned around to go up to the first floor. I stood by the iron door, and thousands of guesses were carried through my head. I silently entered the basement. The light was not very bright, but when I was able to clearly see the situation in the basement, I began to really worry. This basement could not be part of our residential complex. Judging by the size, it was rather a huge bunker. The basement was almost filled to the top with large and small boxes, arranged in such a way that there were only a few narrow passages leading to the doors of several rooms. I took a quick look and saw all kinds of noodles of fast cooking, galettes, canned goods, cereals, vegetable oil, spices, flour, rice, floppies, pasta and hygiene products. Mostly food. And nothing superfluous, no treats, only items of the first necessity. I guessed at a glance that if all this did not have a lifespan, then our family would have enough to eat for 7 or 8 years. I did not touch the supplies and silently approached the nearest room. I noticed that there were only 6 rooms, but there were only 3 of us in our family. If 2 of them are bedrooms, then what are the others for? The door to this room was also iron, not as thick as the entrance, and there was no lock on it. I pushed the door and there was a grim darkness inside, not a single window, not a ray of light penetrated inside. I opened the door and there was no one there. I looked around, but there was no one there. I looked around, but there was no one there. I looked around, but there was no one there. I looked around, but there was no one there. I looked around, but there was no one there. In the cave, they found the corpse of a monkey. The professor was taken away. In the study, they found that there was a prehistoric virus in the body of the monkey, deadly for primates. They still do not fully understand the mechanism of this disease. The body was placed in a sterile incubator to save it. At that moment, your cousin called Dad and told him to get ready. He felt that something was wrong with this body, infected with a prehistoric virus, but the body itself was completely intact, without signs of decomposition. He advised the professor to stop the study, but no one listened to him. While Mom was talking, Dad took out his phone and showed it to me. It was his correspondence with my brother. 3 days ago, he sent a voice message. The body was alive. We have chaos here. There was a week or two left. My brother's voice was interrupted, and it seemed to me that I heard screams and shouts. We contacted your uncle. They bought an abandoned water tower in the mountains. They are going to live there for a while. My head was empty. Our quiet life is about to come to an end. When I came to my senses, I rushed to hug my parents. Fortunately, in the apocalypse, our family was still together. It was perhaps the greatest happiness in the end of the world. Dad patted me on the shoulder. Our ammunition collection mission is not over yet. The list of what your mom and I were able to think about is very limited. We did not dare to ask on the internet. We were afraid to highlight the address. It would be very harmful to us. Yes, in the apocalypse, the worst thing is not bloody zombies, but a human heart. Where are people, there are conflicts. Dad did the right thing. So yes, let's buy more supplies first. We will carry out inventorying too much already. Let's buy supplies first. There are 3 days left. Let's split up. Let's buy everything we can. Delivery to the house cannot be ordered. I immediately stopped them. When did you buy all this before? No one noticed you. Mom, calming me down, smiled. Do not worry. Your dad told me not to disclose the address, so. Except for you, no one knows about our new house. All purchases were delivered to the old house, so that everyone thinks that we still live there. And then at night, we transporting everything by car. I sighed with relief. I did not expect my dad to be so considerate. I wish Dad took me in one hand and my mom in the other. Let's go, the 3 of us will continue to buy. We split up, we just simply divided the tasks. Dad will buy equipment for life support, and Mom will buy the first need items. Every day, and I would continue to buy food. After saying goodbye to my parents, I went to the largest wholesale supermarket in this area. It was Wednesday. There were not too many people. I ran to the department with the snow, and seeing the countless number of their species on the shelves, I thought, first, I don't know if zombies react to smell or sound, so no Hago or snail noodles. It is difficult to cook them, and besides, it is easy for others to smell. If they find that there are people in this villa, we will be in danger. Secondly, things like chips take up a lot of space and crunch when you eat them, so I also crossed them out. Sharp sticks, no, they are a strong thirst, and water will be the most valuable resource. Cookies, no, it's too dry, you need a lot of water. Jelly, also no. It takes up space but does not saturate. So I walked around the whole department with snow and took only a little dried meat, beef, pork, and various dried fruits. They give energy and do not take up a lot of space. Perfect. I don't know how many places there are in the basement, so it's better to buy something practical. Then I went to the vegetable department. Seeing all these vegetables, fresh and green, I felt a headache. Vegetables have a short shelf life and they easily deteriorate, but we cannot live without them. I decided not to buy vegetables for now, but to talk to my parents at home, to understand how to solve the problem with vegetables. Then the frost department. I passed by pork, beef, chicken, seafood. I remembered everything necessary without taking anything, not a single product because there was little time, and I could not carry so much. Finally, I went to the rice and noodles department. I chose the right types of noodles, dumplings and wontons, took 1 pack each, and today I rolled my cart right into the manager's office. I told him that each product in my cart, I want 10 boxes each. Hearing that this was a large order, the manager hurried to accompany me to the store, indicating the goods in the frost department. I said that I needed 30 kilograms of pork, 30 beef, 30 fish and 10 squid, 10 kilograms of shrimp, and I also bought a little reproduction, thinking that we could eat them tonight. Then I chose 20 bags of rice and 20 bags of flour, butter, salt, sauce, vinegar, soy sauce, cooking wine, 5 boxes of each seasoning. Finally, I paid. I left the address of the old house and asked to deliver everything there, and went to the old house to wait. While I was waiting, I ordered several dozen boxes of noodles, quick cooking through the food delivery app. 10 minutes later, trucks began to arrive one after the other in the yard. Just leave everything in the yard, okay? I didn't want them to come into the house because the furniture was almost completely taken out of there. It was impossible to allow them to find out that we actually do not live here. I was busy all day until the yard was filled to the brim. Leaving, I heard several workers joking like with such purchases, if quarantine begins, others will be jealous. My heart was beating. It was necessary to act quickly. These workers knew that there were supplies here. There was a possibility that when the zombies appeared, they would come here to make a living. We needed to transfer all this under cover of darkness so that we would not be noticed. I called my parents to ask when they would come to help with the move. They told me to stay in the old house for now and that they would come at midnight. I took off the surveillance camera in the living room and installed it in an inconspicuous place in the yard so that it could record everything around the perimeter. I sat motionless in the living room, watching everyone from the outside through the phone. It was already dark, and I did not turn on the light in the yard since it was fenced off from the outside, probably. Only some piles were visible, and it was impossible to figure out what it was. What a relief. We needed to finish the transportation before dawn. About 1 o'clock at night, my phone rang. My parents arrived. The three of us took up the case, silently, one by one, getting behind the wheel and dragging supplies, since we were the only ones who moved here. There was no night guard. Our car drove in at a scanned number, so no one saw us. So having worked all night, we finally finished carrying all the food. I did not have the strength to inventory, or even to see what my parents had cooked. I cut off as soon as my head touched the pillow. In the morning I woke up, pushed the curtains, and saw the sunlight. On the lawn, nothing seemed to foretell the end of the world. I got up on the 3rd floor and found that my parents had already prepared breakfast. While I was eating, I asked them how we would solve the vegetable issue. Mom offered to grow them in the yard. She said that she read in stories about zombies that people always grew vegetables to get vitamins. In addition, with our fence it will be safer. I thought for a moment. No, you can't do that. If someone comes, we will all hide in the basement. If they enter the house and see no one, but see growing fresh vegetables, food and cars, will this not be a clear sign that there are people here who hide and live quite well? They may guess that we have a lot of supplies. It will be too dangerous. Dad agreed with me in general. Growing something in the yard is too risky. And what if we strengthen the fence? I shook my head. In our cottage village, all houses are designed in the same style. We should not change the appearance to hide as much as possible among these empty houses. Our house is located in the depths of the village. If someone comes to plunder, they will most likely search the house at the beginning of the village. They will think that the houses in the depths are empty and stop searching. This is the most beneficial for us. I explained my plan to my parents first. We keep the original look. Villas do not add anything. Zombies do not care about fences, so that they do not enter. It will be enough for the usual fence 2-3 cars. The ones parked at the house are too eye-catching. If some marauder finds out that we are the only residents here, then for the sake of those few supplies that we have left, he can stay in our house for a long time. And this will increase the risk that they will find our shelter. In the basement, there is ventilation that is needed. Electricity for work, but if the solar panels are only in our house, this will also be very noticeable. It is best to buy more of them and install them on each house. Solar panels not only dig more energy, but also reduce the risk of being found. Fourth, as for water, it is best to stock up on bottled water. Fortunately, we are in the basement and cannot worry about the carrying capacity of the building, so we can stock it up a lot. We also have a water purifier, but they need to be used as little as possible, only in the extreme case of the 5th. As for vegetables, now we can buy and eat them enough and then make pickles. Then we will only have dried vegetables to restore them. It's easy, this is the only solution. 6th, we need to buy several large freezer chambers. Meat and fish that we buy will be able to be stored for a while. My parents listened to my plan with delight, and her heart warmed up. Our daughter has grown up, thinks about everything. Do not worry, your father has already taken care of the freezer and water. 7th, the walls of the basement are also reinforced and soundproofed. Yes, you probably have not yet seen the stock in the basement. Today, let Dad go and buy something else, and we will carry out inventorying with you and tell him what is missing. Although your cousin said that there was a week left, we do not know the exact day. It is better not to go anywhere during these days. So my mom and I returned to the basement, and Dad was busy at that time. I found out that we had stocked up a huge amount of supplies. It turned out that the remaining 4 rooms were taken under water and freezer. The room, the door that I opened, was almost to the top, forced with bottles of water. Such 16 litres each, which are for the house. It was impossible to enter to count them. 3 of the 4 rooms were used for storing water. And in the remaining one there were 4 large refrigerators, made to order. 2 of them were 2-door, very roomy. The left part, for 500 litres, was just a refrigerator chamber, and the right one was a freezer. Separately, for 450 litres, they were filled with meat, vegetables, and fresh fruits. Fearing that electricity may not be enough, my mom and I decided to use them for storage for now, and as soon as they turn off the light, we will turn off 2 refrigerators. Then in the main room of the basement, we sorted everything out by zones, starting with food. Considering what I bought yesterday, I got a total of 120 bags of rice, 120 bags of flour, 50 boxes of noodles, 10 packs each, 30 boxes of dried rice noodles, 9 packs each, and 20 boxes of wontons, 5 packs each in the box. 20 boxes of dumplings, 5 packs each, fast-cooking noodles with different tastes, 20 boxes each, 24 types of spices in sachets, 5 boxes each, 10 boxes of vegetable oil, 5 boxes of pressed cookies, 10 bags of different cereals, rice and noodles, 3 types of canned food, 10 boxes each, 50 packs of oatmeal, 10 boxes of fried pork rinds. Towel. We took the rest upstairs to the office and locked it up. I went to my room and to my parents' room. Both rooms were small, only a bed and a table could fit there. No closet, just a hanger stand. It hung several sets of clothes for each season. What a pity. You can no longer wear beautiful clothes. Each room had its own bathroom. There were only a toilet and a shower. But the size of the rooms suited me. The main thing is that there is a place to sleep. Still, there was almost no space for supplies. There was an open kitchen in the basement with an ordinary stove. The whole utensil was already there, just like there. There was no sunlight. We did not provide a place to dry underwear. Mom said that when there is no one, it will be possible to secretly hang it on the street and quickly pick it up. I called my dad and asked him to buy another camera, and the smaller the better. I planned to install them in different corners of our village, so we would know when someone was approaching. Then we went down from the top floor. Fluffy blankets and other things in case of colds. Who knows how long we will have to live in the basement. We put a small sofa in the center. I brought my precious projector and game console, which I kept for years, and took them to the basement. Today in the evening, I plan to download several series and films, which I can watch forever. We could chat, watch movies, and play video games with the whole family. Looking at the basement, I felt a mixture of joy and anxiety. If we are found, even if there are 3 of us, if the intruders turn out to be a group of strong, armed men, it will be difficult to resist. So I put a diesel generator and heavy equipment right at the entrance. Only by moving all this, it would be possible to open the door from the outside. Try to move the massive iron door and all this equipment from the place. It would be almost impossible. I had to be careful, protect my parents well. When we finished arranging the basement, it was already dark. We returned upstairs. My mother went to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Since my father had not returned yet, I began to constantly check the news on the network. Suddenly, a keyword appeared in the trends, catch zombies. I shuddered. Have they already appeared? I clicked and found that it was the phrase of one blogger, the end of the world is near, the zombies are already here. But there was no, without seeing any answers, only this phrase. Having checked, I saw that NEPI address was from the country of my cousin. Just when I was thinking about whether the distribution had accelerated and whether it had already reached us, the door opened. Dad returned. He brought more than 10 boxes with cameras. I had to go around a bunch of stores to get these cameras, camera wallpapers. I was very happy. Since we don't have to worry about being found, this evening I plan to go around our village to draw a preliminary map, and then, having taken our house as a center, I would install cameras along the radius. After dinner, my father and I took a hammer and a small knife and went for a walk. We walked around and made sure that, except for us, no one else had moved here. We also noticed that, since the houses were new, most of the doors and courtyards were not locked. We could enter the house to install solar panels, and no one would have noticed this while we were walking. I recorded everything on my phone and marked the route. After making 3 circles, we returned home to draw the map of the village. Having marked it at home with the doors open, my parents prepared to act. They were going to install solar panels the same night in order to avoid any unforeseen circumstances. After installing panels on other houses, they will connect them to the central battery and then connect the wiring of our house to this battery. Thus, we will be able to use energy from other panels. In the meantime, I took the pinhole cameras, already connected to my phone, and walked around each corner of the village where I saw a suitable place. There I installed one. At the same time, I put one at the main entrance. When we finished installing the panels and cameras, I returned home and showed the egg to my parents. The key word was removed. Dad thought for a moment. Tomorrow we will go shopping for the last time. I will buy several penknives and special knives. Wife, you go to the hospital or to the pharmacy for medicines, antibiotics from the flu, for the stomach, painkillers. And yes, buy more, go to several pharmacies so as not to raise suspicions. Sitsi, you continue to buy food. You can buy some of your favorite treats and more cat fillers. See you in the old house when you finish tonight. Leave your cars there, don't drive them here, lying in bed. I thought that tomorrow would be the last day when I would leave the house before the apocalypse. It was hard on my heart. What will this world turn into? With thoughts about tomorrow's mission, I slowly fell into a dream. I woke up very early and found that my parents had already left. In a hurry, I put a piece of bread in my mouth and went to the supermarket. I didn't go to my usual one. The workers in that store already knew me, and if I came again, well, they would easily recognize me and suspect something wrong. I went to another large supermarket and bought a bunch of my favorite treats, even grabbed 2 large bottles with a drink for gamers. I also bought 5 packets of cat filler. This time I just bought ordinary snacks, so I didn't have to be so careful. As soon as I paid and went to the parking lot, I saw a crowd in the distance. I didn't know what they were talking about, so just in case, I quickly went to my car. I threw everything in the trunk and got behind the wheel, making sure that the doors were securely locked. I drove slowly towards the crowd. There were too many people. I was able to drive up only to a place a little further away and lowered the window and asked the middle-aged man standing aside what had happened. Some young foreigners arrived by car, and as soon as they left, they began to faint one after another. Over there you see they are not even in convulsions. The ambulance has already been called. Don't come, girl, it's very scary. The man, who calmly carried 2 large packages, foreigners, they are fighting in convulsions. Hearing these key words, I was horrified. I was already going to leave and pick up the glass in the car, when I saw 2 cans of baby food in his bag. I couldn't help but tell him, sir, you should go home too. I heard that these days the flu is very strong. It is better to buy food and stay at home for safety. He took the package in his hands more conveniently, and then said, you are right, I will go and cook something delicious for my daughter, and he quickly went to his car. I called my parents, and while I was driving, I told them what I saw at the supermarket, without paying attention to the screams behind. Everyone left, those 4 young foreigners, lying on the convulsions, with white foam around their mouths. All people had just left the supermarket with purchases. They had large and small packages in their hands, but curiosity made them stand around, surrounding them in several rings. Someone called an ambulance. I have already called, they say, they are already going. I called the police, they are already going. Chaos reigned, but no one came to help. I am a doctor, let me go through. At this moment, one man pressed forward. He approached the one who was fighting in the convulsions the most, and with one hand he held his head, and the other opened his eye to examine. The eye was completely covered with blood. These red veins seemed to be living their lives, slowly moving along the eyeball. The man frowned, and as soon as he was going to continue examining the one who was fighting in the convulsions, he suddenly tore out a stream of thick black blood and collapsed with a draw. Sir, are you feeling bad? The man patted him on the back, trying to help him sit down. Sir, can you talk to me? He did not have time to finish speaking like a young foreigner, jumped up sharply and clung to his neck, despite the man's blows. He tore out a piece of flesh from his neck. Watching this, the crowd screamed in horror, and everyone in panic rushed to run, but there were too many people. Everyone had things in their hands, so those who were in the center could not get out quickly. At the same moment, the rest of those who were fighting in the convulsions also tore out blood. They immediately rose and rushed at the closest person, gnawing and tearing his flesh. They tore pieces of meat out of their victims. The blood splashed in all directions. Having made a bite, they rose and threw themselves at the next victim. There was complete chaos around. Everyone was shouting, but in a trance no one noticed that man. My dog, he was bitten first. He was also lying on the ground, and he had convulsions. When I drove up to the garage of the old house, I saw how my parents were walking back and forth in the yard, not finding a place for themselves out of concern. As soon as I opened the door and got out of the car, my mother immediately ran up to hug me. CG, we were so worried about you. I patted her on the back, calming her down. I myself did not expect that the zombie flash would be so close. I nodded to my father so that he would open the trunk and carry the supplies first into his car. And just at that moment, when we were dragging the cat filler, the neighbor came out and seeing us smiled. We went shopping, and what did you buy? Good. My father immediately changed his movement. He was going to put it in his trunk, but he changed his mind and put it on the ground, as if he had just got it. He tilted the bag with sand a little so that the neighbor could see it. I saw him and calmly said, yes, no, just CZ wanted a cat. We bought sand, a bed and all that. The neighbor looked at the bag and, it seems, believed. Tell CZ to bring the kitten, let's play and eat together. Then he collected the laundry in the yard and went into the house. I sighed with relief. Mom also came to her senses and helped us carry the things. And then after that, having finished, we all got into Dad's car and drove off. The road was crowded with cars and people running at a raging speed. In panic, crying and shouting were mixed into one roar, and it was impossible to understand where they were coming from. Suddenly the car in front lost control, did not slow down on the turn and crashed into the store. A few seconds later, a woman with a bloody shoulder opened the door of the car and, shaking, came out. Her clothes were torn, her hair was ruffled, and her face was covered with blood. Her eyes were covered with blood. She did not look like an ordinary person. Her mouth was mutilated, a mess of flesh and blood, torn to the very ears. Seeing our car, she threw herself at it without hesitation. We were driving too fast, we did not have time to slow down. She crashed right into the door, into the driver's door, pressing her face against the glass. This torn mouth seemed to be smiling, a terrible spectacle. She grabbed the handle of the door and began to unstoppably hit her head against the glass on the window. Under her unfeeling, insensitive blows to pain, a crack had already begun. Dad, the glass is going to break now. I pointed at the crack. Oh no, Dad, there's a turn ahead. The father immediately understood everything and turned the wheel sharply. The car drove onto the sidewalk, pressing against the wall. It was heard as a zombie's back creaked against the wall. On the turn, Dad pressed the pedal to the floor and shook the zombie. We all sighed with relief. Finally, we got rid of her, but the glass of the car would definitely not withstand another blow. Fortunately, the rest of the way went without incident. We got there safe and sound before entering the residential complex. The main gate consisted of two parts, an iron sliding gate, a lattice and a barrier. Since there was no guard so that it would be easier for us to enter and exit, the gate was usually not closed, only the barrier was raised, which opened according to the car number. We will need to close this lattice. Now, while there are not so many zombies, it's time. Dad is already going to go out with me. No, Dad, you stay in the car, don't go out. If something happens, you can leave right away. I'll close it myself. I carefully looked around, opened the door and ran to the iron lattice. I pushed the lattice with all my might. It closed so quickly that a deafening creak was heard. Finally, I hung the castle. When this was over, we went to unload things from the car. We moved them one by one to the basement. The door was tightly closed. In the yard, we covered the large furniture so that the villa would be uninhabited. We also covered the car with tarp so that the broken glass would not catch the eye. This is how my family's life in the basement began. After all the morning events, I was completely powerless. Going down to the basement, I collapsed on the sofa and stuck into the phone, as if I had no bones at all. At that time, my parents were cooking lunch in the kitchen. Large media covered everything that happened. There were only zombies in the trends of social networks, no gossip about celebrities. Of the 10 main ones, 8 were about a zombie, the post of one blogger. The dog is a Matsi Janui. Yesterday Matsi woke up late at night, ordered food, and noticed that the courier, having left the order, returned and began to desperately knock on my door. I'm a girl, I was scared, and I didn't open it. He left. Now when I see the news about a zombie, I send a message to that courier. Sorry. Dog, save that guy first. How good it is to be a fat gamer, I have a lot of food, in stock. I think I will survive this. The dog is desperately looking for supplies. Hey, who's higher? Look at my nickname. Charlie Chucky Dog. It seems I saw a post about a zombie a few days ago, or it seemed to me that someone already knew. Dog, I like you the most. I have a supermarket with supplies if there is money, right in the face. Users commented in trends. I also looked through all this today. I calmly scrolled through the tape until I came across one comment. Dog, I want to earn $1 million a year. A few days ago, a girl ordered a whole bunch of food in our supermarket. We thought it was for the New Year's corporate party of her company, but now it seems to me that someone had already stocked up on supplies. Heck, trembling, I opened the comments. Send me the address, and to me, how did she dare to buy everything? Here's the bitch. If she knew, why didn't she say anything? We could all stock up on food at home. What an egoist. God forbid I find out who it is, and if I did, someone would believe her. I went to the profile of the dog. I want to earn $1 million a year. Apishnik was not from our city. My heart, hanging by a thread, finally calmed down. It seems that during this crisis, not only did I prepare, the smell from the kitchen relieved the tension. I have never been a particularly good person, and even more so not a savior. In the apocalypse, my only desire is for my family to survive. The government also announced, citizens, stay at home. do not go outside. The army will do everything it can to ensure your safety. Rescue operations will be carried out on the streets. Do not believe rumors and do not spread them. The most popular comment was from the user of the dog Migustas Masuinadi. Migustas Mescanadi, hi, I have a supermarket if there is money, right in the face. Seeing these comments, how dare you to live in the heart of the whole country? You are not ashamed. You are completely crazy because of the money. Aren't you afraid that your address will be leaked and they will come for you? The user of the dog Migustas Masuinadi replied, since you are so brave, come and kill me. Do you think you can break into my supermarket with his guards? I'm not afraid. Here you will see you boast that you have a lot of supplies, and you really think that nothing will happen. I blushed my eyebrows and sat like that, while the gentle voice of my mother did not bring me back into reality. Daughter, go eat. I put my phone down and happily went to the table. After we ate and washed the dishes, we sat down on the sofa, watched TV and ate snacks, as suddenly a signal from the surveillance camera worked on my phone. I remembered that while I was waiting for my parents, before moving, I installed one of the cameras in the corner of the yard. Someone was outside. I opened the camera application. The man in pajamas squeezed a sharp knife in his hand. He climbed over the fence from the neighboring yard to ours, barely touching the ground. He hid the knife behind his back and sneaked on the chains along the wall to our front door. It was my neighbor, and he was thinking. Squeezing the knife tightly, the neighbor knocked on our door without waiting for an answer. He slowly went to the large window on the balcony. I immediately understood. He wanted to check whether the window on the latch was locked. The layout of our house and the neighbor's was almost the same. He knew that if the large window was not locked from the inside, then it could be opened. The window opened. He looked around. He moved silently. On the camera, I saw his evil smile. When he achieved his goal, he climbed inside. I have already removed the camera from the living room, so we did not see what was happening inside, but I imagined the face of my neighbor when he discovers that the house is almost empty. He must have been dirtily quarreling with an angry face. In the morning he saw how we arrived with the purchases. He greeted me with a smile and even invited me to dinner in the evening. And now he sneaked into our house with a knife. This is the human nature in the apocalypse. Dad, we left something in the old house. He also frowned and looked at the monitor. Yeah, we left food there, which is about to expire. The one that could not be taken away at once. I know my father was also scared. If we had not left that house, then we would have ended up on the edge of this knife, so he was lucky. I even got some food. Soon his silent figure appeared again on the camera. Both of his hands were busy. He carried supplies. He threw them over the wall and returned for a new portion. On the fourth move, someone forcefully knocked the gate into the yard. Wow, more guests. How lively. I took out the seeds from my package with snacks and got ready to watch the performance. The neighbor trembled with fear. The bag that he was carrying fell out of his hands, making a loud sound. Those who were outside heard it and knocked even louder. Damn it, yes, I heard. Oh, there is someone there. And it was the sound of the package. They are probably counting the supplies. Open the gate. Don't make me take them out. Don't joke with us. I didn't see what was outside. Only by the sound, I realized that there was a group of big men, and not one person. I only saw a small figure of my neighbor trembling in the yard. He imperceptibly returned to the big window, slowly crawled inside, locked him on a latch and disappeared. A group of men, without receiving an answer, got even more furious. I don't know what they did outside, but big iron gates in the yard. They beat until the shadows shook. 10 minutes later, the gates could not stand it and collapsed. During all this time I did not see what was going on, a neighbor, so I continued to hide in our house. 5 or 6 men entered their house, all tall and strong, each with a weapon, knives, sticks, shovels. I leaned over to see their faces. They seemed familiar to me. I definitely saw them in the last few days, but could not remember where. They pointed to the bag that the neighbor had dropped, something of a hammer. Then one of the men picked up the hammer and hit the big window. The glass flew apart in a ruckus. They broke in. I'm afraid I won't say hello to my neighbor. Coming out, all of them heavy, bags of rice and flour. The last big man came out all covered in blood. He carried the bleeding neighbor on his shoulder, pulling him out. One big man said fiercely, "Did they not bring a bunch here just a few days ago? I recognized them. These are those loaders." The headman laughed coldly. They must have hidden somewhere else. Maybe they are watching us from somewhere. Having said that, he turned the yard upside down, and then they left. I got a cold sweat. It seemed to me as if he looked straight at me. My parents did not say anything. Their faces were gloomy. What happened? Mom came to her senses. They took Leela Sanya. They took Leela Sanya. Leela Sanya. It was our neighbor by last name or third son in the family. Everyone called him that. On the screen, a puddle of blood was still visible in the yard, which led from the house to the very door. Leela Asana was already killed, which means the only reason why he was dragged away. I did not dare to think about it, but this is to eat him, my father calmly said. Mom ran to the kitchen. She got sick in the sink, and I, having suppressed the nausea, sat silently on the sofa. After a while, Mom came back. I looked at them closely. You can't be too kind. After what happened with Leela Arsena, we lost our appetite, so we went to bed early. Lying in bed, I looked at the phone. I realized that chaos was happening in the outside world. The #1 trend in the HUVA network was a massacre in the supermarket. I clicked on the link and saw that the owner of that very supermarket, which everyone was talking about, posted a video where he boasted about his stocks. It was a real supermarket. The shelves were breaking from the goods, and the warehouse was probably also clogged. The owner himself was not in the frame, but his voice sounded salty and complacent. He said that he was ready to share something if he was paid. Hearing his prices, I held my breath. A pack of chips for 1,000. What kind of crap is he? Probably. He did not understand that in the conditions of this apocalypse, which is not known how long it will last, money is the most useless thing. I opened my pack of chips and continued to read the comments. Everyone, without exception, poured it with curses, insults poured down the river, but the owner did not care. He even answered to himself, if you are so brave, then come and kill me. And I fixed this comment at the top. I was bored, and I went out to check the news about the zombie. The outbreaks of the infection were almost in all cities. So far the village remained the safest place. The duller the village, the safer it is. On the internet, many called for building a shelter in the rural area, but how will you deliver supplies to a safe village somewhere in the mountains? Now everyone is in despair. The more I read, the more I was worried, so I decided to go to bed. Suddenly the discussion shifted towards that very supermarket. Curiosity took over. I went in to see, but the owner had already deleted the video. It turned out that someone had calculated the location of the shelves and the IP address from the video, calculated the location, the exact address of the supermarket, and published it in the comments. The owner must have seen it, got scared and deleted the video, but surely many have already seen the address. Screenshots spread everywhere. For the owner of the supermarket, this, without a doubt, will be a sleepless night. I had a bad dream. I put my phone down and fell asleep. On the second day of the outbreak of the zombie apocalypse, I got up very early, got dressed and went to the living room to replace my dad so that he could go to sleep. Out of boredom, I went to the kitchen to cook noodles for everyone on a plate. Hot noodles for breakfast. I took out the fast-cooking noodles and threw them into boiling water, then each egg, just 3. I cooked everything and served it on the table. While I was eating hot noodles, I turned on the Legend of San Juan. So for food, I watched the Legend of San Juan until the very afternoon. Dad had already woken up and was in the kitchen with his mother. They were cooking my favorite stewed meat with tomatoes. The family had lunch together, laughing and chatting. Suddenly my uncle called to tell us the exact location of his water tower. They watched the news and realized that it was unsafe in the city and that it was better to go to the mountains. Neither zombies nor other people. My parents were chatting with my uncle and aunt about life, and I continued to sit on the phone. Wow. This was the fastest way to find out what was going on outside. Who knows how long the internet will last? The supermarket owner uploaded another video. I thought it was another video with bragging, but when I opened it, I saw a full man, tied, kneeling, with a face filled with tears and nipples. He shouted and prayed for forgiveness. What is it? The expression on his face became more and more terrifying. A strong man with a machete appeared in the frame. He aimed at the head of a fat man and took it off. The head of a fat man fell to the ground, rolling straight to the feet of a big man. And he didn't care. He stomped his bloody head as if it were garbage. Blood, garbage, what's the difference? Sprays flew everywhere, but no one thought to clean it up. This video was cut off. These people. In just the second day of the flash, they were already killing. And what will happen at a later stage of the apocalypse? Won't they become even more ruthless? When the food runs out, people from the northern area will also go out in search. And how many of them will remember about the southern area, about this once flourishing place? Our residential complex is the only one in the southern area, and it is also the best place in the south to hide from the zombies. I'm afraid this area will not escape cruel showdowns, and the reason will not be the zombies but the people themselves. Flash. Day 5, on the forum from Eva, someone summed up their character traits. 1. Their eyes are white, vision is weak. They calculate the hearing and smell. 2. They do not eat other living creatures, only primates. It looks like the dead are not interested in them, they do not attack them. 3. Like in the movies, they do not feel pain. There is no medicine, but they are immediate. They can only be killed by a shot to the head. 4. Zombies or mutations that have evolved have not yet been noticed. 5. They are not afraid of light, but prefer darkness. 6. A bite, a scratch or hit by them. 7. Biological liquids in the wound cause circulation. At the same time, bites and scratches act instantly, while when in contact with liquids, the time of circulation is not determined. There was a feeling as if I was watching a movie. I daily tracked the features and location of the spread of zombies. Yes, I went to the exam to the magistracy, and then I did not prepare so hard. Sitting in the basement is not as comfortable as on the upper floor. I can't use the binoculars for observation. I can't be the first to document it. 7th day of the flash. There is no internet anymore. I am locked in the basement. The connection with the outside world has also been interrupted. Nothing special happened. In the days of inactivity in the basement, in order to prepare to turn off the light and water, we got down to business and decided to sort out the supplies. We started sorting, and then my father slightly re-equipped the basement. He bought vacuum packers before, 8 zombie flashes. I took out the labels and pasted them on the products. 9 long-term storage. I wrote the expiration date and put them in the farthest row from the wall. Mom took out the scrawled meat products from the freezer and gave them to Dad so that he could pack them in a vacuum, just in case they turn off the light, and we do not have time to finish all the food from the refrigerator. The whole day went to sort everything out. Trash was accumulating outside near the large iron door. Lately, it has become a real headache for our family, a difficult problem that we did not really think about. Living in the basement, how can we get rid of the heat? Especially in these days when people from the northern region began to run south. The southern area is empty, there are no souls there. Lately, we constantly hear screams for help from everyone around, but no one appears in the field of view of the cameras. According to my calculations, 3 days will not pass before uninvited guests appear in our village. Mom recently washed all the clothes and blankets from the basement and took them to dry in the yard. We do not go to the villa in order not to leave traces, so we only use the corner of the yard. I tie a rope to the iron pole for drying underwear. Dad, we are preparing not to go out for more than half a month. I threw the password from the door hidden in the closet on the villa. There could be something with our birth dates. If this were found, in fact, it would be a death sentence. The 9th day of the zombie apocalypse. People in the southern area are becoming more and more, and the zombies are also gradually increasing. Often cars are passing by at full speed, crushing the zombies. At first I felt sick and wanted to pull it out, but now I can look at it and eat at the same time. Just when I finished a pack of dried meat, strangers arrived in the village. Of course, in recent days many people have visited our village. Usually 2 people drive up to the gates to inspect, but they do not have the courage to go out and push the iron gates, which of course will not give in. And then they leave at full speed. This time 4 vans arrived. It was not clear how many people were inside. They stopped one after the other at the entrance to the village, using the cars as a cover. 2 or 3 men came out and together began to push the iron gates, discovering that they were locked. One angry man kicked them. A metallic sound attracted the closest zombies. The zombies surrounded the cars, pounding at all costs through the windows. The number of zombies grew. Some even began to pile up on top of each other, in a desperate attempt to climb onto the chassis. Seeing this, 2 men immediately hid in the car. 4 vans were surrounded by a whole crowd of zombies. I doubtfully looked at the camera screen. Why aren't they leaving? What are they waiting for? The last van opened the trunk and poured a huge amount of blood from there. Blood? What kind of blood did they bring? Blood. The zombies felt the blood. They rushed forward in a crowd, straight to the last van. 3 front vans easily broke out of the zombie encirclement. I immediately realized that this was human blood, straight from the trunk. They threw something bloody, tied with a thick rope, to the back of the car. The zombies immediately rushed at it, drinking with their teeth. It was a man. They tied the man to the car, and the van, without hesitating, rushed out of place. The rope stretched and dragged the bleeding man on the ground, leaving a long bloody trail behind it. The man was still twitching, he was alive, but the van did not stop, it just drove on, only a little slower. They wanted to use this man to lure the zombies out of our village and take them away. When the van disappeared, only the bloody trail remained. I have already seen how cars crush zombies many times, but now I just froze, looking at this bloody trail at the gates of a living person. They tied him to the car and dragged him on the ground. I had a cold all over my body. In the depth of my soul, I knew that they wanted to break into our village. Can you call these creatures people after that? The 9th day of the zombie apocalypse. After yesterday's incident, we decided to seal the door in the basement. Mom packed all the clothes, silently returning the room to the appearance of a non-residential room. I waited for my mom at the door in the pantry, and then made sure that the secret door was completely closed before the door was finally closed. I boldly on the threshold, a little fine dust from the basement, and with the help of a hairdryer, evenly blew it all over the room, creating the illusion that no one was entering here. Dad was waiting for us at the door to the basement. We closed the large iron gates together, wrapped them in chains, pushed them up, and finally filled the entrance with all the mechanical equipment. Even though we had insulating materials, I still removed the products that could make noise. For example, chips and fresh vegetables. I took them out of the packages and transferred them to sealed containers. And so we sat in front of the surveillance monitor, waiting all day, not taking our eyes off the cars passing by the entrance. But we still did not see any traces of those people. Yesterday they made such a mess, and today, until the very evening, no movement. They never appeared. For dinner, my father and I argued a little. The probability of a night attack was low. Night, zombie time, so we decided to leave one person on duty, the 11th day after the flash. 2 days have passed. Every day I only want to stick my eyes to the monitor for 24 hours, but no one ever came. We just ran out of a bag of rice, and my mother checks the supplies every day. She believes that cooking from abundant supplies gives her peace of mind that we have dinner today. I went to the kitchen for a smell. Mom picked up the lid of the pan, and to my surprise, there were shaggy crabs. What a treat. Yesterday she found a gift box with shaggy crabs in the corner of the refrigerator, so she cooked them all for a couple. There are shaggy crabs in a dark room. What a luxury. Dad was sitting on the sofa, holding my tablet in his hands. Yes, G, come over for a minute. I unknowingly left the crab and ran up to him. Dad didn't answer me, he just handed me the tablet. I opened the recording from the surveillance camera, pointed to the fence and asked, "Do you have good eyesight? Look for yourself what it is," looking at his finger. I took the tablet, looked at it, and my heart beat wildly. I don't know since, but a staircase appeared in the corner of this fence. It was just above the very fence, attached to it by the staircase. For the last few days, I did not move away from the camera at the main entrance, and only briefly looked through other areas, so I did not notice the staircase in this corner. My father and I quickly distributed the tasks in detail, to check all the areas under surveillance. In several corners of the fence of the village there were stairs, but there was no one inside. I noted their location on the map. There were 5 of them in total, and they were quite far from each other. Connecting them, I found that these stairs, in fact, surrounded our entire village. It turns out that these 2 days, those people did not appear at the main entrance, because they were exploring the environment around the perimeter. What a mess. I thought they were using that person as a live bait for a zombie, to break through the main gate. But I couldn't help but think that today's case was just a pretext, and in fact they want to climb over the wall. They plan to settle here for a long time. One phrase of my father made me think, if they stay for a long time, it will be difficult to cope with them. We quickly convened a small emergency meeting. I turned the map around to show them the location of the stairs. At first I thought they were climbing over the wall, because they could not open the main gate, but my father was right. Now I am even more convinced that they want to stay for a long time, and they climb over the wall only in order not to damage the main entrance. Thus the entire village will turn into a safe zone for them. Then they will search the entire village, asked my mother. Dad just took a deep breath. Our house is surrounded, he will become an easy target. There are no zombies in the village, so the techniques from novels and films where there are zombies are useless here. In addition, except for our family, there is no one else here. It is almost impossible to smoke them out of the basement. So far, we do not have an emergency plan. The only thing that remains for us is to try not to give ourselves away. I thought for a long time, until my mother called me to eat crab. I slowly approached. The crab no longer smelled so appetizing. Boom. Suddenly, the sound of the fall of something heavy was heard from the tablet. My father and I, without thinking, threw the plates and ran up to the tablet on the sofa. The head of some man appeared above the wall. He looked around and then threw a large cardboard box. Falling, both boxes began to ooze blood. Fresh scarlet blood spread over the ground. It was not necessary to guess for a long time what was inside. Seeing that zombies do not run away for blood, that man nodded and hurriedly climbed over the fence. In his hand, he tightly squeezed a long bamboo stick, which was tied with a sharp knife. The guy with the knife went around the box several times, without paying attention to the puddle of blood under his feet. Fresh blood splashed his pants. One after another, the rest of the men began to climb the stairs. There were 3 of them in total, all armed with knives and with backpacks behind their backs. Inside, there must have been all their supplies. The detachment moved along the fence, being careful. When they hid from sight, only bloody traces remained on the walls. Dirty, yes, those 2 cardboard boxes that remained to lie there. Blood drips, a man with a knife. Chen led the detachment behind him, along the wall, and making sure that there were no zombies nearby, they headed for the main entrance. "Brother Chen, look, this door is locked on the castle," said a short, fat and slender man, holding the iron castle for the man who was walking behind. Brother Chen did not answer anything. He silently approached the guard booth. A couple of minutes later, Chen Silian came out. The guard booth was empty, but locked from the inside. In other words, it is very likely that it was locked up by the residents of the village. His people immediately carefully looked around, not to be separated. We don't know how many people are here. We'll scratch everything, starting from the main entrance. If we find someone, it's simple. Brother Chen put his finger on his throat. These people were really ruthless. 13. A person lined up and began to check, starting from the nearest villa entrance, searching house after house. Since the houses were mostly empty and there was nowhere to hide, they quickly finished with half and reached a small park in the center. Brother Chen, it looks like no one lives in the local houses yet. A guy with a knife suddenly spat on the lawn in the park. Searches kept him in constant tension. Brother Chen looked around at the villas, which they had already checked, and then looked at those that were ahead. This area, judging by the look of the houses, this castle could have been hung by some worker during the construction. A fat, slender man also sat on the lawn, breathing heavily. Brother Chen threw a look at the guy with a knife. Go check what's next. If there is no one there, stop searching. It's good that we listened to Sitsi. We left the villa as it is and did not strengthen the fence. Mom, I whispered. Dad, they are in several houses from us. About 5, the situation is unfavorable. My eyes followed the figure of a guy with a knife. He had already passed 2 villas. The guy with the knife glanced at the last villas. Probably he saw that they were no different from the previous ones. Turned around and went back. Brother Chen, there is no one ahead in the villas either. The guy with a knife put down his bamboo stick and sat down among the crowd, closing his eyes to rest. Brother Chen only nodded, letting us understand what he heard. Then he took off his backpack and began to look for something in it. A couple of minutes later, he took out a pressed galette cookie and began to eat it slowly. Apparently, he did not have any water with him. He approached the fountain in the village and drank a few sips, and then again took his cookie. Exactly, their supplies were running out, but there was nothing in the village, no food, no clothes, no water. I thought that they had no reason to stay here for a long time. Dad, with the food they have, they will last here for a maximum of 3 or 4 days, and then they will have to leave. Dad shook his head. The fewer people, the more resources. It looks like our new neighbors are going to build a show here. The 12th day of the zombie apocalypse. Yesterday our neighbors were located in a villa near the park. There are no surveillance cameras inside the villas, so I don't know what they are doing there. How I regret that I did not install cameras all over the village. But this morning they left the villa and went to the park. They calmly fell apart on the grass to sunbathe. I was looking for Brother Chen among the crowd, but I didn't see him, so I started looking for a man with a knife. But I didn't find him. What were these 2 up to in the villa? About noon. A man with a knife came out of the villa, stood up in front of everyone and aggressively said, "Put all your supplies. We will redistribute them." Although everyone in the group was men, the one with the knife was the strongest. No one moved. Everyone clung tightly to their backpacks, not going to give away their provisions. The tall, thin man in glasses said weakly, "A few days ago you said that we were distributing supplies for the last time." Hearing that the man in glasses spoke first, another guy, similar to a student, supported him. Distribution of supplies was already unfair. We saved all the way and you eat when you want, and now you say that we gave everything away. And do not dream, a man with a knife, without saying a word, rushed at a man in glasses with his bamboo stick. The knife plunged into the body of a man. The bandit turned his wrist, turning the blade inside the body before pulling it out and hitting it again, fiercely, again and again. When the man in glasses stopped breathing, the man with the knife stopped. He wiped the blood that splashed on his face, frowned angrily and carelessly threw it away. "Well, now you agree to donate your supplies." Seeing this, the young student grabbed the backpack, the man in glasses, and ran out of the crowd, instantly disappearing. The man with the knife spat, going to chase him, but the bandit went ahead. His face was gloomy, but a smile played on his lips. "Do not hurry, we are all here." He threw his half-empty backpack. "I give up first, someone else is against dividing supplies." His gaze led the crowd with a smile, from which blood cooled in veins. One by one, everyone threw their backpacks. I had no mood to watch them share food, so I started looking around. Among all this crowd, only that student had enough courage, and besides, he was smart. He understood that he could not survive, so he ran away. From him and the trail froze. Where could this nobleman have gone? Damn it, why is he at my house? The student hid quietly behind a tree in front of my door. He half stood out because of him, to watch the small park, checking if anyone was approaching, making sure that the type with a dagger did not catch up with him. He quickly opened the backpack he had picked up, poured out all the food, then he sorted everything out, put it back in, the unnecessary back into the backpack, and threw it right at my door. He probably wanted them to think that he had entered this house. What a fool. And I overestimated him. I thought he would be smarter. I turned on the recording from the camera in the park. They still shared their so-called fair supplies. I switched to the student again. I whispered, "If you do not find a way to wash yourself right now, then you will not be able to get out of here." But then my mother quietly came up and invited me to eat. "What do we have for dinner today?" Hearing the word eat, I immediately put down my phone. In this apocalypse, the opportunity to eat hot food cooked by my mother-in-law was a great happiness. Since Brother Chen came, we have not cooked anything fried at home. The smell of smoke and oil is too noticeable. Who knows what, if there is someone among them with an unusually sharp smell. Today my mother cooked dumplings with different fillings, hot dumplings with aromatic vinegar, and also soup with eggs and seaweed. The parents decided to postpone the rest for the new year. We have not celebrated a normal new year for so long, and I do not know when this end of the world will end. And when humanity will be able to celebrate a normal new year again. After eating, I fulfilled my only duty in the kitchen, washed the dishes. The parents had already gone to rest, so I took out the image from the surveillance camera from the tablet on the TV and sat down on the sofa to watch a palace intrigue. Just at the moment when Lung Yui was supposed to be born, I pressed pause and got up to pour myself some water. Looking at the monitor, I saw a few more people. They seemed to be patrolling. The complex is so large, and Brother Chen brought not so many people. It is impossible to be able to follow every corner imperceptibly. I hoped that the student managed to escape. I was not worried that Brother Chen would again carry out a rampant search. His team had already lost one person, and the supplies had to be shared with everyone. Chen's brother. They were no longer as united as before. Perhaps someone in their group was already planning a riot. Brother Chen is not such a fool to order to conduct another search at such a time. For now, we are safe. The 16th day of the zombie apocalypse, the weather was getting colder. In the basement, we all wore warm clothes and washed less often. To heat water for the soul from solar energy, I left for at least an hour. Brother Chen and the rest found several villas near the park and settled there. They had not left for several days. In their small backpacks, there was probably no place for warm clothes. I also checked the backpack that the student had cleaned up. Except for a little food, there was nothing else there. When I set up the cameras, I looked into several villas. There was a luxurious finish. Floors, electricity, and water at that time were, but there was no furniture. They could protect from the wind, but not from the piercing cold. In the city, in this damp and cold southern place, without good health, I don't know if they will be able to survive this winter. I thought about the student. Maybe he learned the lesson and decided to run away. I haven't seen him anywhere for several days. Even now, I don't see the apocalypse. Often zombies at the entrance to the complex, there are very few of them. Lately, not a single car has passed by. If not for those who live in the basement, it would really seem to me that the zombies I saw were just a dream to me. The 20th day of the zombie apocalypse. I don't know what happened to my brother Chen and his people. Judging by my calculations, if not for this flash, I would be sitting right now in the examination room and posting all my knowledge. The year of study was about to bring me a master's degree. I miss student life so much. Bam! A loud rumble pulled me out of a daze. I quickly began to look for a source of sound. Suddenly, at the entrance to the complex, a large truck appeared and began to ram the iron gate without stopping. My parents, too, heard the noise and came up to look at the monitor. We all looked tensely at how the truck was ramming the gate. Again and again. After a while, I realized that something was wrong. This truck was not going to demolish the gate. Such a big car, if she wanted to break through, she would have enough and 3 times to demolish them. And only when the silhouettes of my brother Chen and the rest appeared at the gate, I immediately understood everything. It was a distracting maneuver. Such a loud noise, he must have forced people inside to focus all their attention on the main gates. Chen's brother and his people could not see that there was a truck, so they did not notice that someone was also going to climb over the wall. I turned on the camera pointed at the wall, checked all the angles, and exactly in the corner where the guy with the dagger first put the ladder, I noticed the looking head. It was a student, he returned. It turns out that he went for the reinforcement and now led it in the same way as the one with the dagger. The student climbed first, jumping over the wall. He said something to the one following, and immediately another male head appeared. Looking closely, I recognized them. Old acquaintances. The reinforcements turned out to be the same big guys who killed the third brother. Another bloody massacre is coming. Their leader brought a detachment of strong fighters, who hurriedly swung inside. Everyone immediately lined up along the wall. As soon as the last one landed safely, their leader called someone. The big truck stopped ramming the gate and quietly drove away. It looks like they didn't plan to stay here as long as the group of Chen's brother, and perhaps even use them to get rid of Chen's brother. As for the body, only a guy with a dagger could fight these big guys. The leader gave the rest a sign, and they quickly, in groups of 5 people, rushed to the nearest villa. The leader covered it, and then he himself hid in one of them, looking at the empty area near the wall. On the monitor, if I hadn't seen this invasion myself, I would also have thought that the truck had simply left because it could not break through. Chen's brother, with a serious face, waved his hand. Calm down, the truck could not stop. Come back to rest. Then he ordered everyone to disperse. After that, Chen's brother called a guy with a dagger and a stick. All 3 separated quietly from the crowd and went to the guard booths. Brother, are we not going with the rest? What are we doing here? The fat man asked confusedly. If you want to come back, fall through alone. Chen's brother made him blush with his gaze. He picked up a brick from the lawn and stretched it to a guy with a dagger. Break the door, it's not faster to break the glass. I'm afraid we'll attract attention. Chen's brother was silent for a moment. I said to break, so break, you talk too much. The guy with the dagger hit the lock with a brick several times until it broke. All 3 of them entered the booth on chains. As soon as I stopped seeing the movement on the cameras, I called my parents to the living room and told them in general terms what had just happened. We had a great review. We could guess about the intentions of their leader. He was probably planning a sudden attack at night. A student, it must be, said to those adults that there were no zombies in the complex. When you don't know if the enemy has a pro, a night attack is the most convenient option. In addition, the other group has not yet noticed the invasion. Chen's brother is not smart. He probably already noticed that something was wrong. He ordered them to calm down in order to simply use these people as a living shield and win time for his own plan. I still couldn't fully figure out his plan. Maybe he thought that the booth, being at the gate, was convenient for escape. Or maybe he believed that he would find weapons there for protection. Or maybe he decided that the most dangerous place, it is also the safest to hide. Whatever it was, this night the clash was inevitable. It was a fierce battle, but there was something else that bothered us. If these thugs capture the village, they will search everything thoroughly. If in an empty residential complex they find a residential villa, they will turn our house upside down. Seeing how mercilessly they killed the 3rd brother, Lin trusted them even more than Chen's brother. We decided that this night the whole family would be on duty in the village. It was cold, easy to catch a cold, and there were almost no medicines. We needed to wrap up well. Dad checked the gates and continued to pile up things to block them. Mom made hot noodles. The warmth in the house protected us from the cold outside. The night came, and their leader began to act. One by one, they came out with their weapons, silently moving in the dark. The villas in which the people lived were lit by fire. They stood out at night. The thunders split into small detachments and moved skillfully. The screams of the lit villas tore apart the night silence. Prayers and crying followed them. It lasted for 20 minutes, and then everything was quiet again. Chen's brother quietly came out of the gate. He approached the gates and took out the key to open the locks. Incredibly, there was a key in the lock. Chen's brother opened the gate just enough to slip out and quietly knocked on the iron bars. Fatty and Tom, who had a dagger, also managed to get out, but they did not leave immediately, but instead quickly pushed the gate to smash them. They did not just want to escape through the gate, but also to let the zombies in. The rest were in the center of the village. Their screams muffled the sound of the opening gates until the gates were completely open. They did not leave, I said in anger. They had just killed people here, the smell of blood. This will surely attract the zombies. So it happened. Zombies from all over the district, it seemed, smelled the smell of fresh blood. They, like one, erupted and rushed inside. The screams of people were no longer heard, only growling and stomping of the fugitives. The zombies scattered in the night silence. The leader's face darkened, and he shouted, "Everyone to the wall, quickly." People rushed there. There were no stairs there. They only had to sit each other up on their shoulders to get upstairs. Damn it, the leader from time to time looked around, catching up with them faster, but what surprised me so much is that the leader did not climb first, but covered the retreat of his people. When the zombies got very close, most of them had already climbed over the wall. One of the zombies, in anger, rushed straight at him. "Jump," the big guy shouted, reaching out to him. At that very moment, when the zombie was preparing to cling to the leader, he jumped up, grabbing the hand of that man. Then everyone dragged him to the wall together. They did not have time to remember how the entire site, at the foot of the wall, was already surrounded by dozens of zombies. "While the noise is not too loud, everyone go down quickly," ordered the leader, suffocating. Everyone obeyed and neatly went down the stairs. The leader was the last, no one said a word. It was clear that he was not the first to cover the retreat. When it was his turn, he raised the boss, asking, "What is this? You do not go." Everyone was shocked. The leader smiled bitterly and firmly said, "You have to survive. For my sake." Saying this, he just fell back, right into the gnawing mob of zombies. Everyone shook from horror. One tried to climb back on the wall, but he was held by someone more reasonable. Under the hail of curse, he was dragged into the darkness. I saw that when the leader jumped, the zombie scratched his leg, but I did not expect him to kill himself so decisively. It is difficult to say what kind of person he was. On the first day of the apocalypse, he brought his people to my house and took all our supplies. He killed the third brother, and only half an hour ago they had a massacre in the villa, all in blood. But every time they appeared, their leader was ahead, and more than once when retreating, he covered his back, and when he was injured, he left without hesitation. In the conditions of the apocalypse, good and evil can no longer fully describe a person. At dawn, we counted the zombies in the visibility zone of the cameras. A night massacre, and fresh blood attracted a huge number of zombies. They wandered throughout the entire territory of the complex, the residential complex, the main gates of which were open, and it was visible from the outside how the zombies were wandering. It is unlikely that anyone else will try to enter here. Mom, Dad, we can see the sunlight again. Mom hugged me tightly, crying. So much happened during these days, making sure several times that the zombies would not be able to break through the fence of the garden. We opened the basement door and went out into the sun. So much time to live underground. Because of this, I could not fully open my eyes, but I could breathe fresh air. Fresh air made me feel like I was reborn. The 52nd day of the apocalypse. Recently, an airplane began to fly over the complex. It broadcasts an announcement. Attention, citizens. The government has organized a large safe base on the territory of the city funeral home. Citizens who hear this message can go there on their own. The base provides regular food and medical care. Welcome. I was excited to share the news with my parents. Our supplies are enough. It is better not to risk and not to go to the base. Although my father was happy, he did not plan to go there. The supplies that we had at home could be even more than at the base. Safer, probably. In addition, we would not be able to carry so many things to the base. There is guaranteed protection only from the zombie. You will not guess whether you will have to face conflicts between people there. We decided not to go, leaving the supplies to those who need them. Dawn is approaching. Day 136 of the zombie apocalypse. Electricity, water, and the internet have returned to normal. Safe bases throughout the country are fully established. The government is working well. The army is destroying zombies on an industrial scale, and the Research Institute is accelerating development. Antibiotics. Way. The revival of humanity is coming. Day 190 after the outbreak. The state announces the successful development of Way, antibiotics, and accelerates its delivery to every citizen. You can no longer see zombies on the streets. People go out and hug the survivors. Every hug is like a meeting with an old friend. Everyone shares stories, asks each other about the news. What a wonderful day today. Today is a wonderful day, and tomorrow will also be wonderful.